Egghead Island was an arc of many conversations. Whether it was a story point or a power scaling point, a topic was always on the table for discussion. The main one that was talked about was Kizaru and his performance. I and many others have said our takes on Kizaru and his act multiple times, but which Admiral would have performed the best on Egghead Island? What's up guys, my name is Verdix, and if you enjoy videos like these, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly, you won't want to miss. Let's start off with Fujitora. This video isn't just going to be if they can or can't beat Luffy and the Straw Hats, but if they can succeed with the task on hand. To remind you guys, the priority of the Mother Flame Power Plant, Punk Records, and York's safety was at risk here. Alongside the assassination of Vegapunk, this was just the task the world government were after, just as the Straw Hats were after saving Vegapunk. Fujitora would have his own ambitions to keep in check. I don't know how well he would follow alongside with these orders, if at all. He is aware that Luffy and his crew are good people, and doesn't care for the evils of the world government. On top of this, he would have a hard time fully utilizing his powers without destroying what the government needs protected. His match with Luffy would also be a challenge for him, as without being able to drop down meteors, Fujitora would be nerfed in this setting, pretty much just like he was in Mary Joie. Fuji has not yet shown us he is on the level of the OG3 Admirals. We have only seen him use gravity to stick people to the floor or drop meteors, and he could only do one of these during these circumstances. Fujitora doesn't have speeds that Luffy does, and even having crazy levels of observation haki, I doubt he would be able to see these crazy Gear 5 attacks coming at him and be able to consistently react to them. Luffy just has more going for him here and doesn't have to be holding back his power. The final thing to mention about Fujitora here is I don't think he would be able to kill Vegapunk. I know Kizaru was, and he has actual personal connections with Vegapunk, but he's a lot more loyal to his duties than Fujitora is. He did his own thing both in Dressrosa and Mary Joie. I don't think with his knowledge of the Straw Hats being good people, and witnessing the good heart of Vegapunk, that he would actually take him out. He generally wouldn't and probably doesn't like the Gorosei whatsoever. I doubt any of their words would mean a thing to him. Ultimately, Fujitora would be a lot more of a help for the Straw Hats than a negative. He might even fight against the Gorosei in Kizaru's position. Yeah, Fujitora isn't going to take the win here for the government. Aramaki or Greenbull is on the completely different side of Fujitora. Unlike him, Greenbull doesn't care for the Straw Hats, and if they are good or not, he is there to do his job. He would have no problem taking out Vegapunk. In fact, he would probably get it done pretty quickly. Remind you, Kizaru had multiple chances to kill him as quick as possible, but hesitated. Greenbull is draining him dry of the energy the moment he gets to. In fact, out of the multiple objectives the government had, killing Vegapunk would be the easiest for Greenbull, as it's not like he would be fighting back and wouldn't stall as Kizaru did since he has no personal ties with them. This isn't crazy to say he would do since Kizaru literally did it, and like I said, Greenbull would have no reason to not strike at him the moment he gets, so I most definitely believe he would be able to kill Vegapunk if he was on Egghead. But how would he do fighting Luffy? Well, we saw in Wano that Greenbull was able to tank Advanced Conqueror's Haki hits from Yamato and overpower her with the help of the samurai and Momonosuke. He was actually confident enough that he could take them out and then fight against the Straw Hats. He was also able to no-diff both King and Queen, who had a week to recover, and boosted healing with their Zoan fruits. Another fact about Aramaki is that for the longest time, the coloring of his sword was put into question. The reason why was because it seemed to be a black blade. This is something that only Mihawk has shown. However, Oda did an official coloring of Greenbull, where we see he was displayed with a black blade sword. Like it or not, this is what Oda was showing Greenbull to have. However, the main thing when fighting against Luffy of all people is that he can drain the energy of those his branches pierce. Now, Luffy in Gear 5 is a man who is very limited on energy. His stamina limit only allows him to fight for 5 minutes in this form. If Greenbull does pierce Luffy with these branches and drains his energy, this would be really bad for Luffy. This fight of Greenbull versus Luffy is very situational, and because of the abilities at hand, Greenbull may have weaker stats than Luffy, but he does have a good and likely win con. As like I said, Luffy is stronger, faster, and more hacks than Greenbull, but like I also said, if he gets into Gear 5 and gets pierced by Greenbull, Aramaki might win the fight, as when Luffy was on the floor, the only reason he didn't get killed by the Gorosei was because Kizaru gave him food and blitzed the island. Greenbull would obviously never do this. Another advantage that Greenbull has is his Black Blade and it being able to cause serious damage to Luffy, as he is vulnerable to slashing attacks, and a slash attack from Black Blade can massively damage him. The best case scenario for Luffy would be to not go into Gear 5, as he can last longer and won't have all the energy drained out of him. However though, he would definitely need Gear 4 bare minimum, but this form also causes energy levels to reduce, so if you add the Gorosei fighting alongside Greenbull, Luffy and the Straw Hats would get either captured or killed on the spot. If it's a 1v1 with no conditions, then Luffy would most likely win. Although, like I said, Greenbull has very probable win cons. Although Greenbull is not as strong as Kizaru, he would be consistently battling against Luffy more while not having a reason to hold back, while Luffy also has the Gorosei to worry about. Ultimately, I believe it would be too much for Luffy, unless he somehow throws Greenbull into the ocean or something like that very quick, like he almost did with Kizaru. If he does that, then yeah, he could do that, but frankly, he's not handling Greenbull and the Gorosei at the same time. Yeah, I think Greenbull would be able to get the job done. Now, Kuzan isn't a member of the Navy anymore, but he once was, and it would be fun to discuss his hypothetical performance if he was on Egghead. The man has all the capabilities to take on anyone upon the island. In fact, I don't think anyone could beat him. Kuzan was able to go 10 days straight with a much more powerful and lethal Akainu, and Luffy can only last a measly 5 minutes. He also has much stronger punches than Luffy, as in base, he trains and is able to match Garp in strength. Speaking of, he, while massively holding back, was able to defeat Garp and didn't show what he could have actually done. Kuzan is outlasting, overpowering, and beating Luffy anytime he wants to, but that's the thing, it's really a matter of how he's feeling. If he was still in the Navy and wanted to keep his position, he could easily freeze the Straw Hats, capture them, and kill Vegapunk. I don't think he would though, as he left the Navy because of the world government's affiliation and evil doings. If this was a strictly Navy mission with the world government not involved, then Kuzan might do it, but with the Gorosei being there, it would only make things worse for them. He doesn't care to satisfy the government's needs. In fact, his whole thing now is following the path of life he deems fit, and I know for a fact that path does not involve following the Gorosei's orders. Realistically, personal matters would get in the way, and the Straw Hats would be able to escape due to the rising conflicts that would arise between the Gorosei and Kuzan. If you would like me to discuss an in-depth battle between Luffy and Kuzan, I will if I see enough comments about it, but I believe most people understand the fact that Kuzan would be the strongest person on the island, and if he wanted to, could get the job done, but because of personal conflicts, it really wouldn't work out that way. Now, that leaves one man left, the man above all others, Sakazuki Akainu. I'm gonna be real and blunt with this one, I'm warning you guys. I don't think he would be able to complete the mission to the satisfactory of the elders, but I do know that he is doing whatever he pleases. When I tell you that this guy is going to incinerate everyone on the island, I mean everyone. The Gorosei's words would mean nothing, but I do believe he would try for a quick second to work with them before quickly doing his own thing. Vegapunk's assassination would be quick and brutal. As for the fight with Luffy, well, the series would have been put to an end right then and there if he came upon the Straw Hats at Egghead Island. Luffy needs to get up close and personal, touching the opponent to do damage, and with Akainu's magma existing, that is not happening. He is burning through every attack he lands on him. Even with Luffy's crazy strength, Akainu is stated to have the strongest devil fruit in the series and can go 10 days blow for blow with Kuzan, who can punch as hard as Garp, pointing to Akainu having around Garp level punches, if not higher on top of that. He, along with Kuzan and Kizaru, was stated to be the strongest force the military obtains, and with his crazy level of strength, he was able to combat and overpower Whitebeard with very lethal blows. He's able to take off half his face and burn holes in his body that incinerated his organs. Whitebeard is not only much bigger, but can endure attacks way better than Luffy. This attack to the face by Akainu might take off Luffy's entire face and kill him. I mean, look at this difference in size between these two. There's just nothing Luffy could currently ever do to defeat Akainu. It's not happening. If he does decide to use his full power, he would also burn away the entire island and everyone on it, like he did with Punk Hazard. So he would be a threat to the things the government wanted to protect and the government itself. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what is surviving. He has already argued and gone against the Gorosei before. They aren't people he cares about. Like, I believe that he would try to keep them alive for the sake of the world government and Navy's relationship, but at the same time, if he wanted to, he could burn down everyone and everything in sight. All in all, Akainu would be able to take out the Straw Hats and Vegapunk, but the safety of the government priorities, I don't think so much. To conclude with the Admiral that would have performed the best to everyone's goals on Egghead Island, well, it would have been Greenbull. He would comply with the orders, won't hesitate to kill Vegapunk, and could possibly, if the right things happen, beat Luffy. While guys like Akainu and Kuzan could go in there and run the place, if we are talking about which Admiral would perform the best on Egghead Island by keeping York, the Mother Flame power plant, and Punk record safe, but being able to kill off Vegapunk and capture the strides as well, it would be Ryogoku Aramaki, aka Greenbull. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm and is very appreciated. As always, shout out to Tiberius for the thumbnail. If you would like some quality thumbnails of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter at verdicts_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.